Back on the SportsMax Zone, Craig Brathwaite will be hoping for his first win as captain when the West Indies meet Bangladesh in the first of two tests starting tonight Caribbean time at the Fazeer Mohammed Chowdhury Stadium in Chittagong. The 28-year-old has led the West Indies in 5 tests, losing all 5. They include the side's 2 defeats in the 2018 series against the Bangladeshis. This time the odds are even more stacked against the Barbadian as he leads a depleted lineup. Now, even coach Phil Simmons has admitted that his team faces an uphill battle. He says, "I think Bangladesh will always have the edge no matter who they are playing at home, even though they haven't played Test cricket for a year, almost. They are a very strong side when they play at home. You can have lack of international cricket, but you'll be training properly. It takes away the rust, which is only a mental thing. It will go away after the first couple of hours of the first day." Now, like the Windies, Bangladesh have struggled in tests, winning just 1 of their last 5 matches, but their coach, Russell Domingo, is still confident. He says, "Our performance in tests in the last couple of years hasn't been that good, but it is something that we are really trying to rectify. We spoke long and hard about it after the Pakistan test. I feel that we are definitely moving in the right direction. It is the start of a process for us in tests, and the results are very important." Important, yes, but the results have not been great for Bangladesh at the Fazeer Mohammed Chowdhury Stadium. They have won just 2 of 19 games played there while suffering 11 defeats, including a 224-run loss to Afghanistan in their most recent match at the venue. Bad for the Windies, though, is that left-arm spinner Shakib Al Hassan has taken 60 wickets at the venue, the most by any player. Worse yet is that 8 of the top 10 wicket takers at the venue are spinners, and with Bangladesh likely to field a 4-pronged spin attack, it could spell trouble for the fragile West Indies batting lineup. Now, we are joined by international cricket commentator Fazeer Mohammed as we look ahead to the first test. Faz, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Always away from the start of this important fixture for an under-strength West Indies team against the Bangladesh team, which, as we just pointed out, very, very strong at home, no matter who they're playing against. What are the odds against the West Indies pulling off an upset in the opening test match?
Very, very long odds, I would think, Lance. And as you alluded to the fact that, look, 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, the West Indies, with a virtual full-strength team, yes, Jason Holdham missed that series, but they were well beaten. The first test was a bit closer. They lost by 64 runs, but then they lost the second by an innings. And now to have a team that has been so severely depleted, it really tells its own story. So I understand the coach and the captain, they have a job to do. They can't think negatively. They've got to think positively, because you don't go into any contest expecting to lose. You want to believe that you can produce the goods to really put Bangladesh under pressure in their own conditions. But everything points, Lance, to Bangladesh, if not completely dominating the game, but prevailing in the end.
Yeah, well, the 2 most experienced and potent bowlers in the West Indies attack would have to be Kemar Roach and Shannon Gabriel. But the likelihood is for the spinners to be dominant in this match on both sides. How strong are these West Indies spin bowlers who are going into this match? And would you care to think who they might play as spinners here?
Well, at the moment, when you look at things, if you're guided by the warm-up match, and I'm always a bit wary of that, because as we've seen, the West Indies talked about having a good build-up in England, talked about having a good build-up in New Zealand, and we saw what transpired. So at this point, I would say, of course, Rakeem Cornwall looks to be the front man as far as the spinning option, and then you've the 2 left-arm spinners in Jomel Warrican and Veerasamy Permaul. At this stage, it looks as if Warrican might be ahead, but again, it will be influenced by the conditions when they turn up in a few hours' time to see whether or not there's anything to encourage the faster bowlers. And I think Brathwaite is not entirely wrong when he says that you can't completely ignore the role of the faster bowlers, because it really is up to Kemar Roach and Shannon Gabriel in particular. 2 men, one with over 200 test wickets, one with close to 150 test wickets. So you're talking about players who have quite a bit of experience. Yes, it's going to be tough, but you've got to bend your back. You've got to put in the effort. You've got to put the opposition under pressure. Bangladesh are always uncomfortable against genuine quick bowling. And if you can fire it up in their own conditions, yes, you could have them under a bit of pressure. But as I said, it's about sustaining the effort. And that's where we've seen Lance and there's others on the panel, that the challenge for the West Indies has always been, when you talk about Test cricket, taking it beyond one good hour or one good session and really being able to build on any sort of advantage that might be gained.
Faz, Craig Brathwaite likes to talk about leading by example. How crucial will his role be in this test? Of course, Lance alluded to the stats before. He led the West Indies in 5 tests previously and, of course, lost all.
Well, as best as he can, he's got to put that behind him and think about batting the way he batted famously in that test match against Pakistan in Sharjah, where the West Indies won a test match away from home against reputable opposition for the first time in a very long time in October of 2016, when he batted through both innings not out, carried his bat in the first innings and was not out at the end as well. And that's the sort of batting you need from a Craig Brathwaite. Of course, he famously has a double 100 against them in St. Vincent. So it's about recapturing that sort of doggedness, that sort of, the individual Craig Brathwaite may not be the most demonstrable on the field as a captain, but he's got to play his role there as well. But I think more than anything else, Craig Brathwaite has to lead from the front, literally at the top of the West Indies batting order.
How excited are you to see the return of Shakib Al Hasan, of course, in this format test, because he was man of the match in the ODI, expecting him to do the same thing?
Well, if I were a one-eyed West Indian, I would say I'm not excited at all, because he presents an imminent threat with bat and ball. But of course, you always want to see the best players in action, which is why it's so disappointing from the West Indies point of view that our best players are not there. Whether or not it would have been a measurable, meaningful difference, we can always speculate. But you always want to see the best. And I'm sure from a Bangladesh point of view, they're delighted to have him back after his 1 year suspension from the game because of those issues that he had off the field. So it is going to be a threat. And because he is such a formidable cricketer with bat and ball, the West Indies have an even greater mountain to climb over these 2 test matches.
Fazeer, one of the things that continues to frustrate me when I'm watching the top test teams, and maybe in that lies my answer to my own question. But anyway, when I'm watching the top test teams, Fazeer, I can watch a passage of play and see the fielding team creating pressure and sense that something is about to happen for them. Or I can watch a passage of play and see a partnership bedding down, consolidating for an assault that is likely to, of course, benefit the batting team. I must confess to you that watching the West Indies in Test cricket, I can't see any phases where, based on the body language in the field, the quality of bowling, the quality of fielding to bowling, that the West Indies are creating this pressure fielding-wise, and certainly in the batting, I don't get the sense that, here I am watching 2 batsmen who are in a partnership that is going to take the West Indies a far way, whether they're chasing or setting a total. What accounts for this absence of pressure in the field and batting partnership-wise?
Well, the easy answer for me is that you just, as you said, you answered your own question. But let me just elaborate a little bit by saying that, look, the issue when it comes to Test cricket, and this is the difficult part, it's consistency. It's sort of like when you talk about football, someone can juggle the ball, can bounce it on his knee, can bounce it on his nose, can hold it up in the air for 9 hours, but can't pass the ball 10 yards. And that's essentially what it is when we talk about Test cricket. It's about doing the basics, not just right, but consistently over a period of time. I think we have seen periods, maybe not in the recent past, but in the not too distant past, where you saw the West Indies building pressure on the opponent, winning that Test series in the Caribbean. They were so dominant there, everything was going their way. But this is where the test of character comes in. This is where the test of your mettle comes in. That just to simply put 6 balls in the same area, to bowl a maiden over or 2, just to bowl to your field. But unfortunately, from our perspective, you invariably see that spoiled by a long half volley or a rank long hop or a chance put down somewhere in the field that deflates the team. And that just elevates the anxiety. And it's something that you have to remove. It's about eliminating errors where you can. Okay, the West Indies don't have the quality right now. It's obvious right across the board. But surely what you can do is try to eliminate things that are manageable, like errors in the field, like consistent lines and lengths. And that's where you can start the process. But again, as I said, it sounds simple, but it seems very, very difficult to do.
And it's even more frustrating. You speak about dropping the ball in the desired spot consistently. I'm baffled by the fact that you can have a fast bowler, Fazeer, bowling 3 overs, and in those 3 overs, those 18 balls, he drops 6 in the intended spot. And then I say, well, why can't you drop 5 of 6 in 1 over in the same spot, even if I'm not going to ask you to drop all 6 in the same spot? So clearly you've demonstrated over those 3 overs the ability to find the spot that you want, and more importantly, that your skipper has set the field for. You've shown over 3 overs that you can do that with reasonable regularity. Why can't you do that in an over, which is how you build the pressure that I'm talking about?
And that is why I often wonder if our players are geared mentally to the requirements of Test cricket, because it is a discipline, and it's a kind of boring discipline in some ways, that you go in the nets, you mark out a couple of spots on the pitch just short of a good length or just on a good length on or about off stump, and you bowl at it constantly. It's not exciting. It doesn't really excite the fans or present tremendous pyrotechnics. But if you do that consistently well enough, and we hear all of the modern specialists talking about it, muscle memory and all of that, simply practicing those basics where you hit a good line, look for the top of off stump, or as a spinner, yes, you'll want to have variations. You don't just want to be predictable, but you also want to be in a comfort zone where you know from ball 1, you're on a spot, you're on a line, you're in a good area. We don't see that happening too often. You invariably see it spoiled by the attempt to try something. And when you try something and it doesn't work, it frustrates everyone, it upsets the bowler, it allows the batsman to relax. There's nothing more frustrating for a bowler than to see a succession of singles. Of course, in the modern context, we think only 4s and 6s. In Test cricket, it is infuriating when you're trying to build pressure on a batsman and you contribute by some loose bowling to a succession of singles that allow the batsman to alternate strike.
Yeah, or a misfield back with a square. All right, Fazeer, stay where you are with us. We're going to take a quick break and come right back to talk more cricket. Yeah, so big cricket coming up on the channel. We know that you enjoyed England versus, well, beg your pardon, India versus Australia in Australia. What about England's tour of India? There is so much riding on this series that you'll have to stay with us for the next segment to know just how much is riding on this series.